one case that comes to mind from late last year was a case we handled for about 2 years for an elderly couple. And the gentleman went in to get a carpal tunnel surgery. It was recommended basically on his first appointment and scheduled for like a week later. He didn't even know that the issue was all that prominent to him. He was following up with the doctor after being in the emergency room for a shoulder complaint, which was totally unrelated to carpal tunnel. He was told, hey, you have carpal tunnel. Do you want to get it fixed? He said, sure, I guess I'll get it fixed. He was retired, his golden age, him and his wife here to Florida. He was pretty active though. He shot guns on the shooting range. He operated a boat. He did a lot of carpentry around the house. He really needed to use that dominant hand for virtually everything. And unfortunately, there was an error during the procedure, and we animated that procedure. We hired a graphic designer to do a full animation of the procedure based on what the expert, who was just a wonderful expert, the expert came and examined the client, and the expert reviewed everything, and he, being a board-certified hand surgeon, he had a pretty good inkling of what had gone wrong, and based on the operative report, it pretty much shouted out to him exactly how the procedure went wrong. And so the animation of this procedure showed the trajectory of how the nerve was severed during the procedure, during a particular step of the procedure where the expert says this is where people sometimes, unfortunately, won't just take a minute and reset the equipment. And instead, the equipment kind of was just, it's like a sled that has a blade on it, and he didn't reset the blade, and the blade, unfortunately, when it was passed through the second time, severed the nerve. And the gentleman wasn't really diagnosed by his treating doctor, even though there was suspicion that he knew he had done something wrong. It was delayed. So when he ultimately was properly diagnosed and he contacted Fair and Fair, we were able to investigate, hire the right experts, and prosecute the case. And it was still a long battle. But what stood out to me in the case was not just the gentleman, but his wonderful retired school teacher wife, who was just a wonderful spouse. And although her husband put a lot of household duties on her, they got rid of the boat, they didn't entertain with friends as much, they weren't golfing. He was an avid golfer, avid shooter, and so he obviously was not exactly the same, but her duties to him, the dutiful spouse, of how she spent her golden years and she was helping take care of things, really stood out to us as an aspect of damages, which usually when you look at these cases, you look at how much medical treatment did he have and what did it cost and what does he need in the future. Well, some of those aspects of the case that are traditional weren't really there, but the aspect that was non-traditional was what it did to the relationship and all of her duties. And so we prosecuted that case to the fullest measure that we could before we could, after a long battle, able to resolve the case for them just short of trial.